Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, back to recap the Steelers' Week 2 preseason victory, 17-7 over the Kansas City Chiefs. They moved to 2-0 on the preseason, but of course we're much more concerned with individual performance this time of year than we are team performance. But overall, pretty happy with how things were, especially after a sloppy start for the offense with, I think, consecutive 3-and-outs, but things got going and the team settled in and I thought played really well from basically second quarter on. Like usual, we'll go through it position by position. That'll be the easiest way for me to sort it out in my mind, and obviously these are just initial thoughts. We'll have a lot of more in-depth analysis and recap of this game throughout the week. But starting with quarterbacks, I know that Tomlin didn't say it after the game, but to me, this is the first time all preseason, all of camp, that Mason Rudolph actually started to create separation ahead of Josh Dobbs. And I put Josh Dobbs on my losers list for Steelers Depot, my, immediately after the game, the winners and losers list. It wasn't that Dobbs played a terrible game, it's just that he played the same game that he always plays, which is he's got a nice arm, he's a mobile quarterback, he's not a bad decision maker, but the accuracy is such an issue, especially when you're talking short crossing routes. So he's got to lead a target. That's always been an issue for him. I saw it in camp. You saw it last year. It's why I've called him scattershot. Again, happened against the Chiefs on Saturday night. You have a miss. The big one was the miss to Deontay Johnson on the crosser that got picked off and, prevented this team from putting up points right at the end of the first half. So that's always been Dobbs' issue. So we saw mobility. We saw, a good arm. He had a really nice throw down the middle to Eli Rogers. I believe that was third down. All positive plays, but those are plays he's made his entire career, and that's what got him drafted, and I'm not seeing anything additional to that. With Rudolph, you're seeing better consistency. You're seeing more confidence and even some more mobility within the pocket or making plays outside the pocket because he's just more comfortable with everything. You're seeing placement. You're seeing him take command of the situation, and I think he's just done a better job overall. And it was an ugly start box score wise, but obviously his receivers hurt him. Grimble had a clear as day drop that would have been a 20-plus yard play. But once his receiver started helping him out, Rudolph really got locked in. So it's the first time I've seen Rudolph be able to show that consistency and really he's taken that first step to be ahead of Dobbs. Is the battle over? No, I'm not going to call it over yet, but obviously opportunities are getting fairly thin at this point. Ben's going to play the first quarter at least against Tennessee next Sunday, and maybe into the second quarter a little bit, we'll see. And that's going to be limited chances for Rudolph and Dobbs then, and then you probably still want to get Hodges some sort of play time, based on his performance. We'll get to him here in a moment. So, you're starting, I think, finally see some separation between those two guys. But still good competition overall for sure. Dobbs did things that were positive, of course, and then Hodges came in and keeps being the darling of Steelers Nation. I love the mentality of Devlin Hodges, a guy that I think almost all of his passes tonight were deep shots. I think one was thrown around the line of scrimmage on a play where he got flushed out and nothing was there. But even late in the game, his final throw was a deep ball to Johnny Holton that was with beyond the structure of the play. Something short wasn't there. He just threw it deep. But this is a dude that definitely takes chances and just says, I'm not here to check it down. I'm here to make some plays and turn some heads. And so his accuracy, ability to drive the football, ability to adjust his arm angle when he needs to through sidearm on the one pass, I think that was underneath tonight, continues to impress. So for me, again, it's still open. I'm not going to make any decisions. I don't have to make any decisions today here on August 18th as I'm recording this, but you let this thing play out, and I don't really see a way that you can cut Devlin Hodges. When you want to talk about creating your 63-man roster, 53 plus 10 men on the practice squad, unless Scotty becomes the 11th, which is actually probable at this point. So let's call it a 64-man practice or 64-man roster. Devlin Hodges is one of your top 64 players on this team, and I don't want to cut him. And so it would create an unusual situation where if he can't be the number 3, which is still possible, and Dobbs keeps that spot, or whoever, Dobbs is on the roster, then I'm in favor of at least keeping Hodges on the practice squad. And I know keeping 4 quarterbacks is insane, but this is a pretty special circumstance that I think warrants Hodges to be kept. I just don't think it's a guy that you want to cut. I don't think you want to give him all the looks that you have, both in preseason games and in camp, him answer all of those challenges, and then you say, nah, we're going to cut you. They just don't have room for you. I mean, what's the point at that point? You've just used up some valuable reps that you could have given more to Dobbs and Rudolph, to Hodges. He did well, and then you still cut him. It's just like, what do you want the guy to do at that point? So, still an open-ended question, but to me, I just don't see how you cut Devlin Hodges outright. You may have to cut him for the practice squad if that's the path you want to go. But I think that you got to try to make him part of this roster in some capacity for week 1. But good stuff from those guys, and we'll see Ben against the Titans. Running back, James Conner played more than I thought. I know that the first 2 series were kind of duds, and that's maybe why he did play more, but ran well. Jalen Samuels definitely seen some more burst and quickness from him. The touchdown was kind of a walk-in, but still just overall he saw a little bit of speed. Well, and he's still a big guy, so he can still break tackles, but just losing some 10 pounds is probably what he lost from year 1 to year 2. That's really important for him. Benny Snell ran hard, like Benny Snell did, converting short yardage situations, making a tackle on special teams. He got a kick coverage tackle and a punt coverage tackle his first 2 weeks in the NFL, so kudos to him. Trey Edmonds is probably going to be your number 4 in the practice squad. I do like Malik Williams. I'm glad he got playtime tonight. I figured he would based on how they were using him this past week at Latrobe for the final week, but just probably going to be a numbers game for him. Trey Edmonds has more value on special teams, a bit more of a known NFL commodity, but I did like the way that Malik Williams ran tonight. He may end up on a roster, maybe a practice squad somewhere else. Tight ends, not much to note with all the injuries. No Christian Scotland-Williamson, no Zach Gentry. Obviously, next week's going to be a little tough for those guys to play because you're going to bring in your starters. I mean, tight ends, you can run 2-3 tight ends and guys will get work, but neither of those guys playing tonight is really huge for the evaluation process in a negative way, and that might compel this team to bring somebody in. I'm working on a list of names that I'll probably have an article on maybe in a week or so from now of potential trade candidates or cut candidates. I've mentioned some before. Dave's mentioned some before. I don't want to spoil anything, and things could change, so I don't want to reveal a name right now, but I have a decent list of 4 or 5 names I think that you could trade a 7th round pick for potentially, or could be a roster cut down candidate that you could scoop up. So if those guys can't get healthy and you can't get a clean evaluation of them, it's hard to keep him on your 53. I think Gentry's still probably got the edge right now because Scotty couldn't go in this game. He's only got 5 snaps in the preseason, but it's still obviously an open question there, unfortunately. Offensive line, I thought that the starters did a good job. The starters that did play, Villanueva, Foster, and Filer. Filer kicked into right guard to have a core for it, right tackle. Looked like Foster and Filer were definitely getting after it, so I'm excited to go back into that tape. I thought the offensive line was the best part of the first quarter for the Steelers offense. Backups, up and down. Again, you'll have to go in the tape. I'm glad Derwin Gray got a lot of snaps. He was running second team right guard, which is what happened right after their first preseason game, that first camp practice back. I don't know why he was running behind a guy like J.C. Hassenauer in the first place, but he's now ahead of him, and I'm excited to get in his tape. Zach Banner seemed to have a rougher game than the opener. I'll have to go back and check it, but it seemed a little tougher for him. Just ups and downs. Guys are defenders are going to win. Sometimes they're going to win their reps, so we'll get back into the tape for that. But I'm really excited to go back and watch Derwin Gray. Seemed like he had a decent outing, at least upon first glance. The receivers, how did I forget the receivers, of course, to round out here the offense. James Washington continues to be impressive. He may not start. He probably won't start in terms of being the number 1 or number 2, Juju and Moncrief. But this team runs, its base personnel is 3 receivers on the field, so he's going to play still 70% of the time. And you just hope he's able to translate what he's done in the preseason to the regular season. I think he can. But, of course, this time last year, we're talking about all the plays James Washington made in August, and it didn't translate. Of course, year under his belt of experience, being more comfortable, losing some weight, all things that should reasonably, have you expect that he's going to be able to make the jump and be able to translate. But just like his release, his route running, ability to find the football, attack it in the air, do a little damage after the catch, be a tough physical player. His run blocking, even especially, I thought in the seamless touchdown, I think there was a Snell run where he had a couple key blocks. So he's been physical, mixing it up, something they preach and coach in camp. So I like to see that from James Washington. Deontay Johnson with almost 2 touchdowns tonight. One was called back on a terrible, absolutely terrible offensive pass interference, but whatever, doesn't count. Could be an issue for the refs this year, but we'll worry about that later on. But just good for him to get out there. The issue with him though was that punt return that he muffed. Can't have that. Ball security, a huge thing. So he's probably not going to be in the mix in the return game unless an injury strikes. But just happy to get him out there, make a couple plays downfield. The double move he ran on the touchdown was pretty nice. track the football, find it. I know it kind of touched the ground, but he secured it well enough. So good job there. Deontay Spencer definitely throwing his name into the ring. I'm going to go back and check through these first 2 weeks, but he's probably forced 6 missed tackles, I'd say, within these first 2 weeks. I mean, he's always making the first guy miss in the return game, and that's a really valuable trait to have. You make one guy miss and it's blocked well enough, most of the time you're going to get a decent return or a really good return off of that if you can combine those two things. So I like Spencer's game. I know he didn't have the best game against Tampa Bay, but I was saying this on the podcast with Dave. If you look at the numbers, his return average, his punt return average, and kick return average, I mean, they were good. And then tonight was just like that. Got involved on an end around for a 19-yard gain. So definitely a guy that does well and thrives in space, which is what you would expect with his skill set, his CFL background. So, we were talking about Johnny Holton last week, pretty quiet game from him. Now we're talking about Deontay Spencer, who obviously could be competing for Ryan Switzer's spot, but, you'll have to show that the whole way through. That might be a situation, talking about Deontay Spencer, where you don't win that job or finally be able to stake that claim until that last game, the way that Rosie Nix years ago, finally cemented his spot with that block punt against Carolina in the preseason finale. So Spencer could be a similar story, but he's got to obviously continue to play well, but definitely a name to watch. Defensive line, I don't have a whole lot to note there. Nothing stuck out to me too much. Saw some energy from Winston Craig. Yeah, that was really about it. McCullers played some. Bugs was a little bit quieter, but again, we'll have to go back. It's a little hard to see those trench guys the first time through. Levon Hooks, I would move on from Levon Hooks. I want to keep some guys with a little more upside, a little more pass rush ability. Casey Sales did get a sack kind of on a scrambled situation, but kudos to Sales. Outside linebackers, pretty thin with the lines. Watt and Dupree played well. Some of that was against backups, but some of that was against starters. I thought Watt overall did a really nice job against Mitchell Schwartz. Schwartz has seen a lot of Bud Dupree in the past, but he got a good look at Watt this time around. I thought Watt did a really nice job for sure. Is there a train coming? Oh man, I hope not. That'd be annoying this time into the video. But Skipper did well. Fumble recovery, falling the football, did a nice job. Had a sack. Good stuff for him. Definitely making a case for the 53. Sutton Smith could not play. That was surprising. I thought he would at least get some work, maybe even late in this game. So missing 2 games, having a fairly quiet camp. That's really dinging his chances. 53, we're not even thinking about 53 right now. We're just trying to see if he can make the practice squad, which he still probably will. But Skipper's certainly rising, and I think he's got to make the practice squad. Worst case scenario, obviously Ola Daney being out, is disappointing, but he should not go on IR. He might not be ready week 1, probably will not be ready week 1, but can be inactive until he's healthy. So you'll have Dupree, Watt, and Chick, your top 3 until Daney gets back, and then we'll see what happens from that point. Inside linebackers, not as much to notice. Missing some guys. No Devin Bush. No Vince Williams. It sounds like Bush has a shoulder injury. Tomlin said really just held out for precautionary reasons. But Matakevich, obviously not good in coverage. He got beat on a post route, a little 7 route. But, you knew that. That's not his game, but a really solid tackler, physical player, keeping him for his special teams value. A little quieter from UG3. Spillane gets beaten coverage, but I like his angles. I like his tenacity, his physicality. Still think I see a practice squad spot there, but not a ton to note with the inside linebackers. The secondary, a little more with the cornerbacks this time. Artie Burns, decent game. Brian Allen did not probably have the game that he wanted to. Missed the opener. Had a missed tackle and a missed breakup in this game. A lot of misses in there for Brian Allen, guy that couldn't afford many of having that word, miss, next to him. So really outside looking in. For him, I wouldn't carry him on the practice squad. I'd probably just move on, unless just because you need to carry a corner and there isn't a whole lot of other names trying to make a case with some of the injuries. Justin Lane, a bit of a bounce back for him. Just playing a little bit lower in the lines is likely to help him out. Mike Hilton did get beat vertical twice. Not his best game in the slot, but it played some safety. Played actually a decent amount of free safety. So take that for whatever it's worth. Maybe just kind of reps there in an emergency situation. Kind of weird that Cameron Kelly didn't seem to play a ton. He was getting work in dime, a little bit work in slot in the second half. But I thought they would get a longer look at him. But they wanted to see Hilton, a lot of Mike Hilton at free safety. Take that for whatever it's worth. Not sure if Steven Nelson played. He dressed. I'll have to go back to see if he played, but it doesn't matter too much. Trail Edmonds had a forced fumble, and I'm going to have a film room on this sometime later in the week on Steelers Depot, but definitely seeing this team, what's been coached in camp about being aggressive and finishing plays and trying to rip the football out. That's been the mentality in the preseason these first two games. So creating takeaways or trying to near takeaways has been a big point of emphasis, and I think you are seeing that translate. The Steelers forced, I think, three or four fumbles tonight. Recovered, I think, two of them. Marcus Allen poked the ball out, good hit, good stick there. The Edmonds one, obviously, and then no, Hilton had a kind of a forced fumble. I mean, that was recovered by Pittsburgh. Was a low snap, but it still counts. And then PJ Locke even had one that the ball skipped out of bounds. So Steelers defense was really getting after it in terms of the forced fumbles tonight. So that's all things have been preached for every level: defensive line, linebackers, secondary. It all matters, and I think they've done a good job with that. So I'll have a film room kind of breaking that down later in the week to kind of really show what's being taught in practice and how it translates to game day. So Sean Davis got out there. That was good. Marcus Allen did have a forced fumble, which was huge for him, but he didn't come in until I think maybe mid-fourth quarter at best. So that's still going to be tough for him. But he's got to make more plays like he did at the end of the Chiefs game Saturday to try to make that last-second push to strain across the finish line and try to make this team. Specialist Matthew Wright had an accurate leg. Boswell didn't get a chance for a field goal. I don't think he did. He had 2 extra points. Barry, neither of them were particularly great, but whatever. I mean, I guess the rain conditions probably didn't help, but neither of them were fantastic. Return game, like I said, Deontay Spencer definitely making a case there. So, good news on the injury front. I think everything seemed minor. Snell with a groin, Bush with a shoulder injury kept him out. Chickolo, I think, had some sort of chest injury, according to Tomlin, but he seemed unconcerned about all those injuries. So, good stuff overall. Defense getting after it, getting the secondary healthier, getting them some play time. Rudolph playing well. Hodges playing well, receivers playing well, young guys stepping up, rising to the moment, guys that had good performances like James Washington in Game 1, carrying that over to Game 2, someone like Deontay Spencer or Justin Lane that maybe didn't have their ideal game in Week 1, doing much better in Week 2, so a lot to go through obviously in this one, but pretty pleased with how this team's rolling overall. Obviously you'll see the starters next week, kind of get a little better evaluation, but we know once the regular season starts, we kind of throw all this August stuff out the window and wipe the slate clean. But happy with where the team is at, both performance and injury-wise. And let me know your thoughts. Are you happy with where this team is at performance-wise? And if so, let me know what you like. And if not, then where do you want to see improvement? You can follow me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can do it on YouTube by subscribing to my channel or checking us out on Steelers Depot. So let me know your feedback in the comments below. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.